Political system and the government. South Africa had its first democratic selection in 1994. The first president was the familiar Nelson Mandela, a 75 years old freedom fighter who demonstrated against a community in apartheid. He visited jail for 27 years for this case and for human rights. Jacob Zuma has been president of the country since 2009. His party is called African National Congress. It was the same party as Nelson Mandela's. The party was the organization against apartheid and the minor of white leaders controlling the country. South Africa's Constitution of 1996 declares racial equality and entails a number of human rights declarations.
Zulu. The most common language spoken as a first language is by South Africans Zulu, which is spoken by 23%, Xhosa, which is spoken by 16%, and Afrikaans, which is spoken by 40%. English is the fourth most common first language in the country, which is spoken by 9.6%, and is the most dominant language in the government and in the media. And fewer than 2% of South Africans speak a first language other than an official one. Most Africans speak more than one language. Dutch and English were the first official languages of South Africa from 1910 to 1925, 6%, and is the most dominant language in the government and in the media. And fewer than 2% of South Africans speak a first language other than an official one. Most Africans speak more than one language. Dutch and English were the first official languages of South Africa from 1910 to 1925. Afrikaans were added as a part of Dutch in 1925, although Afrikaans replaced Dutch, which fell into disuse. Dutch was dropped in 1984. So between 1984 and 1994, South Africa had two official languages, which was English and South Afrikaans, which is Afrikaans. There are 5 different ethnic groups in South Africa. There are 79.2% Black African, 8.9% colored, 8.9% white, 2.5% Indian or Asian, and 0.5% others. And there are 11 different official languages in South Africa. We have African, English, Ndebele, Northern Soto, Swazi, Tsonga, Tswana, Venda, Sa, and Zulu. The most common language spoken as the first language is by South Africans Zulu, which is spoken by biggest religion with almost 80% of the inhabitants, and after that is not really a religion but non-religion with 15%, and then we got a lot of others like Islam, Hinduism, and African tradition religions that are represented in this country. But a poll in 2012 indicated that the number of South Africans who consider themselves as religious decreased from 83% of the population in 2005 to 64% of the population in 2012. If we look at the literature of South Africa, it's got quite a unique story because of the apartheid that has affected the social and political history and generated religions that are represented in this country. But a poll in 2012 of the population in 2012. If we look at the literature of South Africa, it's got quite a unique story because of their apartheid that has affected social and political history and generated a rich variety in the literature. And besides that, they got a really well-known author. There is an English writer, J.R.R. Tolkien, who was the author for The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and he was born in South Africa. The culture of South Africa is known for cultural diversity, and the South African black majority still has a substantial number of rural inhabitants who lead largely impoverished lives. It's among these people, however, that the cultural traditions survive most strongly because of the blacks have become increasingly urbanized and westernized. Aspects of the traditional culture have declined. In South Africa, there is a secular democracy with freedom of religion, and many religions are represented in this country. And a census 2001 in South Africa provided the most recent national statistic for religious denominations.
To take control over Cape Town. In 1910, South Africa became an independent nation because the Europeans were so far away in time from their original country that they felt like they were South Africans. In 1918, Nelson Mandela was born. In 1984, they was apartheid. It meant that almost 3.5 million of people were moved from their original town, original neighborhood. I meant. They was apartheid. It meant that almost 3.5 million of people were moved from their original town, original neighborhood. I meant. In 1960, there were a lot of demonstrations and there were almost 60 people killed in these demonstrations. In 1990, it was the end of apartheid. Yay! And in 2010, the World Cup was held in South Africa. Yes. From year 1400, the Sa and the Zulu tribes lived in South Africa, and they lived there peacefully until the Dutch settlers came in 1652. Then the Dutch settlers lived in Cape Town, and they take over the Cape Town. But in 1852, the British settlers came to control over Cape Town. In 1868, there was gold found in Johannesburg, making it a very rich town. In 1899, the Boer War was, and it was a war between the British settlers and the Dutch settlers.